And we all just don't wanna be gay rock stars, sucking big trimmy peanuts and licking on balls.
The girls come easy cause they all got dicks. They all stay skinny cause we all come thick, yeah. Welcome to episode 30 of the Riff Ranch. I'm gonna put the song that we did before in front of that because we said something different, but add that to the end of it.
Hell yeah. Yes, the first one wasn't as offensive as the second one.
Oh man, I love doing Riff Ranch, you guys.
Yeah, dude, it's really fun.
We've been doing a lot for the podcast lately. Lots of podcasts.
We're
gonna do another. I guess this is a riff, another riffalog.
Riffalog horror.
Another riffalog.
Anal riff horror. We're out here drinking Red Bull Coconut Edition. Coconut berry.
Gonna be the name of the episode is Analriff. Is one word. Analriff and horrors.
Yes, that actually sounds great. Anal riff horrors. I'm gonna write that down. Just
Analriff.
Anal. How do you spell anal?
Like analog with analog with the OG at the end.
Yeah,
or without
like
the OG.
Anal, but like without the OG. You ever had anal with an OG? You ever had an OG try to get you to do anal with it?
No, I can't say I have.
Oh man, me neither. That's what I was gonna say that too. That's what I was. Yeah, I was thinking. Yeah, I was like, damn, that'd be really crazy if he did. And I didn't have. I haven't done that.
I'm not sure, Drake. Why are you slipping on?
I just want to get that last little bit of water so I could put the coconut on there. The coconut berry, dude. So,
I used to have filled up that entire cup.
I know, right? That's what she said. Yeah.
So wait, I was gonna talk about the back rooms.
Oh yeah, the back rooms. It's honestly really great. I love.
This.
Yeah, it's. I think the most of the visual videos and shit like that dude was doing, because it's just like a 3D rendering software that he uses to make that whole thing.
Really?
Yeah, it's just like this.
He uses AI basically.
Basically, yeah, and it's like it just like randomly generates all these different. He just adds pillars and stuff like. It's really actually cool how he kind of like.
Yeah.
How he kind of.
He started it in 2019, and basically, so like I'm gonna kind of explain this because basically the idea is the back rooms are like these endless hallways, and the original creepypasta said that there's 600 billion miles or acres of just hallways, and it's basically like these yellow hallways, or at least that's how like it went.
Yeah, like the original.
I don't know if it was 600 million or 600 billion, but it's like a ridiculously large number of just acres of like these yellow hallways, basically.
And there's different rooms. Yeah, different rooms. And also,
look at
I want to
fucking docking today.
Hell yeah. I want to say that the original creepypasta or SCP thing was written by a different person. But
yeah, so the picture, it was something on 4chan. I was listening to shit.
Yeah, it was like a cursed. It was a cursed photo.
It was some images. Yeah, it was.
Or it was a liminal space.
It was like a sub something. I almost said subreddit, but it wasn't on Reddit. It was on 4chan, and they said like something creepy or something, or like picture photos that give you the creeps. And somebody posted something of this yellow hallway, and somebody else captioned it, kind of adding like a backstory to this random picture that was posted. So the story comes from one user, the picture comes from another user, and then the guy who made the analog horror is a completely different person from the other two.
Yeah, that guy just like kind of like, once again, I said he had like the software or whatever, and he just kind of made it.
Yeah.
And he like started to do and he kind of showed it. I remember when it got really popular, or when it started popping off, like the videos of it, I was seeing a lot on not Instagram.
I can't believe it came
like TikTok and shit like
2019. Like Backrooms is like 5 years old now.
And around that time is where like everybody had all this extra time, like in 2020 and shit.
Yeah, that's what really made it pop off, was quarantine and everything.
He actually showed. I remember seeing a video of him kind of breaking down how and it was on TikTok too.
How he made it,
like how they were doing it. I don't know if it was that dude or if it was somebody else just showing how you would use that.
Just real quick, so basically the whole premise, the first video of the Backrooms are like these kids, it's supposed to be in the 90s. The original date in the video says 91, but the posting on the video says 96, and it all becomes like kind of more clear, like dates become more cemented as the series goes along. Like the first video was like the early days of like producing all of this, so like they didn't really have any dates set in stone yet. But anyway, these kids are like in the 90s and they're recording like this video.
Yeah, it's like they're making their own little home movie.
Yeah. And then he like basically
no clip
falls. Yeah, he no clip. Well, I was gonna say he falls into the ground basically like a video game into like this area, and he's in the back rooms, the yellow hallways and shit. And so like for those of you at home, most people listening to this probably don't know what no clipping is. But basically in like video games and shit, what a lot of developers do is they'll put like areas and just unused assets in like underneath the map that you're playing basically, and like where you can't see them. And it's possible in a lot of video games it's called no clipping, when you basically break the rules of the game and get off the map or like fall through the map, and you get onto these unused resources, and you can see, that's how a lot of people find a lot, like they'll do data mining and they'll find a lot of these unused resources and shit. Fun fact, that's how a lot of shit for ESO, like that's how they figured out that like new mounts and like new shit that's coming to the game,
that's how they find that it's like out. Like
they'll data mine, because like they have to put it before they update the game to have that thing in the game. It has to be like the resource has to be in the game somewhere. Yeah, so people will data mine it and basically figure out like, hey, this thing is in this model or whatever is in the game. This is like an armor set or something that's coming into the game later, and like all that sort of thing. That's kind of crazy, isn't it?
Yeah.
But anyway, so that's what no clipping is and all that shit. And so basically, he no clips into this other area, which is just miles and miles of these yellow hallways, and there's like these like fungus, like bacteria type monsters and shit like that, and like there's
they're like these little I guess I want to say like dog-esque creatures, but they aren't really dogs. And
I have
like
no idea what you're talking. The bacteria monster I was talking about is like the thing that like stands on two legs.
Oh, you're talking about that thing. I thought you. I thought you were talking about the shit they talked about on the SCP stuff. But yeah, that like the robotic ass.
Yeah, it looks very robotic, but it's like a bacteria, because like when you look at other episodes of the Batman and shit, it has a picture
of the motherfuckers.
Yeah, well, there's a picture of it in the background, and it says bacteria written across.
Oh, okay.
So it's like confirmed that it's like this bacteria that's like well, it's supposed to be those like microbial like bacteria that like come together and create a whole organism. Yeah, it's supposed to be like a bunch of those that have mutated and come together to make this giant fucking crazy ass looking organism basically in the background. Is like the whole idea behind it. But no, there's one story. So I was going to talk about the one, because the back rooms, because it's an analog horror, has to do with so many different stories. And I was just going to talk about the one that I'm really interested in. And then if you guys are interested in the story, you can go check out the back rooms and like kind of get the fuller picture. Yeah. The back rooms is also a pretty cool analog horror, because I know the last time we talked about analog horrors, I was talking about like phone numbers and websites you have to go to kind of get the fuller story of the local 58. Yeah. And like the backrooms is cool because you can get the full story by watching the whole.
Yeah, you get the whole gist of it from just you don't have to go through and like watch all
the foundation. So because it's an analog horror, there is more shit to it online. And if you go online and look up this other shit, there's more to the story. But what's nice about the backrooms is you can pretty much get the full picture just by watching the YouTube videos, which is nice, because you don't always get that in an analog horror.
That's genuinely creepy as hell.
So I forget Buddy's name, but he's one of the. So there's this company, basically, what starts this whole series, and you don't figure this out until you get a couple of episodes into it. But basically, what started this whole series is this company is like there's an overpopulation situation going on in the 90s, and they're like trying to figure out, what do we do about this overpopulation? We need to figure out housing for people. And they basically figure out how to like open up this portal to another dimension, basically, which is what the backrooms is like these hallways and rooms and shit. They were going to start housing people in another dimension, basically.
I didn't
know
that.
That's that's the whole, that's where this whole thing starts, basically. Isn't that a crazy concept though? Like imagine you live in another dimension. You're like, oh, I'm going to take the portal to New York real quick. And like, fuck it. Yeah. Like, I have to go to work. Like imagine you work in the real world, but like your apartment is in the back rooms. Like that would be.
Side note on this doesn't necessarily have anything to do with the videos themselves, but it is kind of connected. It's a creepypasta based around like the company and all that shit. Yeah. But in the creepypasta, they ended up basically made like a I want to say, I think it was called Liminal Land or something like that. Basically, it's the back rooms. It's the back rooms, but they made it into like an amusement park. these people go in there and all that kind of stuff, and then in this like dimensional rift that they have to go through and pass in and out of and everything. Actually, if I could find that again, I'll send you that story. It's really good.
I would love to.
Side note.
Is it Mr. Creepypasta?
I want to say maybe. I don't know.
He's really the only creepypasta person. But I'll listen to it either way. If you send it to me,
Dark Summons. The Dark Summons is all right. His weird.
Regardless of who it is, I'll listen to it if you send it to me.
Oh yeah, but it kind of relates to the thing, but it's not really exactly.
So they're trying to solve a housing situation in the 90s and basically open up this portal, and it's like a whole thing, and find out that there's these crazy like bacterial, microbial,
microbial,
whatever I'm trying to say. You get it. There's these organisms in there, and there are these crazy monsters that are killing people. And also, time doesn't work the same in the back rooms that it does in reality. And like that's kind of where I'm going with the whole story. The one guy that I'm really interested, he works for the company. All these guys go in with hazmat suits.
Yeah.
And basically, he turns a corner, and like he thinks his whole team gets like sucked up into the back rooms or whatever. He can't. He hears them calling, and he's walking looking for them, but he can't find them. And then he starts hearing like broadcastings of like The Simpsons from like 2004. And then he starts hearing about like Cuba opening up like their you're able to like
the embargo.
Like when they lifted the embargo to Cuba in 2015. And like he's hearing like all these broadcastings from all this different shit, but he's from the 90s. So like all of this shit shouldn't be here. But like it's because basically he's jumped into the future, and like the backrooms just kind of sucks up things from like all different points in timelines and shit. And basically it shows it, a different episode shows it from his team's point of view, where basically they lost him. Like he's lost in the backroom. Nothing changed for them. Like he just turned this corner and he's gone forever. Yeah. And then so basically in another video, it kind of jumps 2 months into the future since he got lost or whatever, and they're selling the whole idea of the back rooms, like the company is, and they're like, it's this super safe thing, we've never had any problems with it, and they're selling the idea of these apartments, basically, like we can use this area.
And there's also a floor in the back rooms that's all the houses. I don't know if you've
yes
if you're aware of like, the different levels.
That's why that's a whole thing, is that there's like there's that level that's all houses and shit, because that is part of like the whole housing situation and everything. And basically what happens is like they're showing their investors like this whole idea, and they're like marketing this whole thing during this board meeting, and he shows up, the dude that went missing 2 months before, and he's like, hey, let me in, and like basically, Buddy finds out that the company thought that he had died in the backrooms. They didn't know what happened to him. They thought like the backrooms just swallowed him whole and he disappeared. And they're trying to make this product look safe. Like this is a safe area to live in and shit. So they basically faked his death. They like put a body in a car accident and basically made his family think that like he didn't die at work in the fucking backrooms working on this strange thing that like nobody knew about. Like he died from like a normal car accident. And the backrooms is still super safe, and we can sell it as a product, basically, for like people to live in.
Oh man, I didn't know that part.
Yeah, so like that's a whole. So that's why this is the one guy where like I was super into his story when I was listening to the whole thing today. So I was like, ooh, this is who I want to talk about on the fucking whole backrooms topic. And then if people are into this, all of the characters in this story, like when you learn more about each one of the characters, they're all super interesting, just like this. But this is the one that I really like. Attached to.
I don't remember any of this. I just remember the kid, and then there's like the guy who gets lost, and he's going through the different pieces. But I don't remember him getting back to the thing. And I do also remember how it kind of jumps from the 90s, and it goes back to the 80s, and then it goes.
It stretches over
2010s, I think.
It stretches over 4 decades. But yeah, so basically, what ends up happening is they tell him he can't come out of the back rooms. Like he's standing at the door, like they have this like glass door thing, and you're watching it from like a security camera footage of like him banging on the door trying to get in. And like they basically tell him it's 2 months later. Like the backrooms has basically jumped him 2 months into the future, and they can't let him in. His family thinks he's dead basically, and he's like, "Did you even hold a funeral for me?" Like kind of like saying like they're basically faking his whole death and all this shit.
Christ.
And it's like a whole horrific thing. And I think where it's kind of going is like Buddy that like jumped. So the next time we see him, he's jumped more into the future, and he's basically living out in the back rooms now, like fucking just trying to survive basically, because there's all these like different monsters and shit in there. And I think where it's kind of going is like one of the kids or whatever he's going to end up finding in the back rooms and kind of teaching them how to survive in here and like kind of unraveling the story of like how to get out kind of thing. Is like where
That
it
sounds
seems like,
awesome.
yeah, but like I'm super excited to see. That's about as far into it. I know there's probably more. A lot of the shit that I listened to it on it was like probably from 2022. So like I'm sure a lot's happened since then, and his story's probably gone more. But
So I'm saying I don't remember. Hell, I don't remember any of the stuff that you were talking about. Like,
yeah, isn't that cool though? Like the whole thing about like the company faked his death. The whole thing about like they're trying to sell it as like a living space basically in another dimension, and like there's so much of the story that's kind of being unraveled.
man,
And there's so
been surviving though, like weapons and
right? Isn't that fucking?
and that fucking bacteria stuff that's just in the air.
It's about so like I was listening to a couple of videos on it and shit, and it was basically saying like the best way to survive, you don't want to wander off because you'll get lost, but you don't want to stay in one place either because then the monster will get you. Like he's most likely like he's not stopping, like he's moving. You have to stay moving, but you can't move too far like where you're not familiar anymore, you know?
Yeah.
And like it was like a whole video kind of talking about how like Buddy's probably living in the back rooms and
That's
shit.
crazy to be in some type of temporal loop to just endlessly
Yeah.
walk alongside parallel.
He's
to the
also
universe you're
he's
in.
also surviving because I believe a lot of the times that we're seeing him is like the videos we're watching are jumping years.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure it's like the next step in what he did kind of thing. So it's not like it's been a long time for him. Like he's having to survive like these long stretches.
Yeah, it's
like-
kind of just like dragging him out quicker,
Yeah.
which would be ideal. If I'm gonna be stuck back there, I would rather keep jumping me like, so I don't have to rely on things like what is it like? What is he eating? Like,
Yeah.
is
Well, I
it
mean,
piss?
well, no, because there is like a whole thing. So another thing I was listening to, it was talking about how it doesn't just pull in people, it pulls in all sorts of things. And the trash and shit that you see on the ground in the very first episode, you can actually see somewhere in the back rooms, like just in the background, in like episode 13 or something like that. So like it literally pulled in the trash that you could see on the ground from the very first episode and shit like that. No, it could be pulling in like junk food and like all sorts of shit basically.
True that.
As the
And
back
it does pull in whole like theoretically there could be a whole ass Chick-fil-A in there, and you just like, oh shit, let me go
yeah.
grab the food at the Chick-fil-A.
So it literally it pulls in whatever. It's not just people.
Yeah.
It's like anything really.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Imagine if that was real though.
But that's like
Like you could survive.
so another thing I wanted to talk about because we were going to kind of move on to the next thing. His name is Kane. I really wish I could remember his last name, but the creator of the Analog Horror, his name is Kane. And you were telling me something else that Kane had done, but before we kind of move on to the next project that Kane's currently working on, I wanted to kind of talk about like the cultural impact of the backrooms and how like I've just been seeing it in like so much shit. I feel like
the whole liminal space thing, especially like I was talking about with the program that when that was kind of introduced. I wouldn't say introduced. I couldn't tell you the name of the program to save my life, but I feel like once that was kind of brought, like there was more attention brought to it, and it was more accessible for people to use that. People were kind of doing their own thing, and making their own levels of.
how he was making it. Basically.
Yeah. And like that, like added to the lore, like, and that's like one of the best things about the back rooms themselves is like it's kind of like I'm not going to compare it to Star Wars or whatever, but
into like what I'm talking about because like that's a good example right there. Just how the backrooms has like changed culture and like he's changing how people kind of build stories online and shit like that.
yeah,
Just
it's almost like a I don't want to say copy pasta, but like it's like I don't know, like there's the available. Like I said, it's kind of like with Star Wars with how like there's like the base. Of like these are a few rules that you need to follow, and the rest of it is you just make your own shit.
Yeah,
You make your own lore. You can do your own characters, whatever the fuck. Yeah, and you just boom. As long as it doesn't necessarily conflict with the main source, which is also very vague in this case. So it's it's very flexible.
Yeah, the biggest thing that I feel like has happened, A24 has reached out to Kane, and they're A24, an award-winning movie studio, is making a backrooms movie.
I saw that, which I think might be good because A24 is good, but they're pushing out too much stuff.
I
want to
think
get
so.
to a production company.
What I personally, so he's helping write and direct this movie.
Yeah.
And I think what's going to happen is because he's helping write and direct it, I don't think he's gonna retell any of the stories he's put on the internet, and he's gonna have this movie tie in with what he's done on the internet. And so like,
it'd be awesome how like he could continue to add on. It's like he can have this big motion picture, and he can still just continuously, and other people can still. I mean, I guess it wouldn't necessarily be completely canonical to what he's doing.
Yeah.
In a literary sense, or
I think he would be more worried about the story that he's got, because he's taking it in a certain direction, I think, and like he has a specific story that he's trying to tell, and he's not telling it all in order. And I think that'd be interesting if that was like a part of the movie, if it was almost like a Pulp Fiction-esque kind of movie and it was told out of order as you're watching it and stuff like that. But some other big things that I've seen lately is like, you know, we talk about comic books all the time in here, and recently Nightwing, Backrooms. That's what we talked about last week. Nightwing gets it. The Backrooms is in DC Comics now. That's crazy.
Yeah, it's its own entity, and that's the thing about it too. Like the Backrooms itself is a whole entity. Like it's a creature.
Yeah, and it's just become such a huge part of pop culture now that it's like showing up in all these crazy things. The game Remnant 2, I don't know if you know what that is, but it's very similar to Dark Souls. In the way that it plays, and the way that you have to like you have to super strategize around all the bosses and shit. But it's also like a 4-player game, so you can play up to like 4 people and shit.
Yeah.
But then there's also guns. There's like it's like Dark Souls, and like it's like the amount of strategy you have to put into Dark Souls. But then you also have like assault rifles and shit. But you also still have like katanas and like swords, and it's like very much Dark Souls. They just like added assault rifles, which is pretty kick-ass. But like,
I was watching that one video you sent me last week about it.
Yeah,
I remember now.
And after you beat the main storyline, you have to be like wearing a certain set of armor, and you have to finish certain prerequisites. But then you go to a certain area of the game, and you can open up this area, and it is the Backrooms. And if you play all the way through the Backrooms, you unlock a hidden class in the game. And I thought that was pretty kick-ass, just like how they integrate it into this game. And it's not really, you don't really no-clip into there. You kind of just have to open up a portal to the Backrooms.
Yeah.
But that's still pretty kick-ass, just like how it's kind of integrated itself into so much of pop culture.
Well, it's like I said, it's one of those easy moldable stories. It's very it's very flexible in a literary sense. I'm trying to sound smart, but you know what I'm saying. Like, and it's something you can, and it's very ominous, and it's something that like I think a big part of it too is the way you can use liminal space in horror like that, because liminal space really inherently isn't necessarily scary, I would say, but it's like the uncanny valley effect when it comes to people's faces. That's why I like faces inherently.
I think the best way to like integrate the Backrooms into these stories too is by not tying it into like the whole analog horror story, because you never know what's going to happen with the whole analog horror. And I feel like the fact that like they just have their own things kind of going on in the background, I think that's pretty kick-ass.
Yeah, like completely separate fucking, and it's like they're, I would say, like I said, like there's different creators making different. I guess that was a whole roundabout way of what you just said, but but they don't at all have to match up in any way, because it's not the same thing. It could, because it's not, I don't know. You know what I'm saying?
I think you're trying too hard to sound smart. You don't have to try that hard, Bailey. It's okay.
It's like, I know what I want to say. I just don't know why I'm having a fucking stroke to say it.
No, but I think that's a good way to kind of segue it into like what Kane's working on recently, because you had kind of started talking to me before about like his whole new analog horror. I think it's crazy that he's working on a movie, he's still doing the Backrooms, and now he started another analog horror on top of all that. Like,
which is fucking, it's really like,
that's a lot of work.
Yeah, it's
like I struggle to do this one podcast.
it's and this new one is like spooky. It's basically, it's almost like the same thing.
It's similar to the back.
Yeah, I feel like,
what is it? What do you remember what it's called?
I have it pulled up. If you give me 2 seconds,
okay. I can cut this out.
It's the Basswood County. Basswood County. Fuck.
It's by Kane.
Oh no, matter of fact, Kane Pixels. So you
Kane
Pixels.
So it is him.
Yeah, the rolling The Rolling Giant is I think is what it's called.
The Rolling Giant.
But so essentially, it's like there's this mall in the 80s, 90s, or what. I think it got closed down in the late 90s.
Oh, well.
It was like Pine Grove Mall or something like that. It was from, I want to say, in Missouri or Michigan, something like that. Anyway, it was a real place, real mall, and it was I think one of the first malls that were made. Anyway, so it comes through. The main character is like one of those urban explorers, I'd say, something like that, and he's going through. I want to say he was basically exploring, kind of like a catacomb-esque situation, like with abandoned buildings, and then like he like goes. No. So he's going through the city. I'd say I now that I'm talking about it, I can't remember the exact setting to begin with, but he's looking through this abandoned building or whatever, and he goes to the basement, and it keeps leading him down to this tunnel or whatever. It keeps going, and eventually he gets to where he starts to hear music of like background music that you would hear just playing at a mall. And
there's like, it's not like the back rooms where it focuses on like several different people or like it's a different person every clip, but like it is just one person and like his kind of experience.
Yeah, this main story, and I'm pretty sure he's gonna keep adding on to it and make different things to go with it.
It sounds like I know Marble Hornets is super different from this, but like aesthetically, it sounds very similar to like Marble Hornets and like
kind of like a found it's more like found footage instead of a
which like
it's more of a limited space. That I don't. It's like when you get down to it, it's just like the back rooms, except he doesn't like necessarily no clip in there.
Okay,
he just kind of like comes across
these catacombs.
And it's like he like opens a door, goes to a basement or whatever, and he hears like music, so he follows the music and he finds a guy that's the exact replica, like the mall that has been long since demolished. I think he's like around our time now in the present, I believe. But and he's like what the fuck? So he keeps going down there and exploring it, and like each time he realizes he's all alone, and like he keeps exploring and it's like abandoned, but it looks normal in the beginning, but it slowly starts to decrypt. More like it's almost like how the more he's aware of it, or the more he tries to look into it, the more it kind of shows itself for what it is. And he finds this. There's a creature that's following him, and it's like this weird statue thing, the Rolling Giant. It's like this crazy looking thingy with a fucking weird face.
Okay.
And it starts. At first, it was like looking at him, and he would go somewhere. He'd be like, "Oh, that's creepy." He'd go somewhere, and he'd see it again, and da da da. Anyway, he keeps going back, and finally he no spoiler alert, but finally he ends up going back. He sees it again, and that motherfucker's chasing him, and he decides to climb away, falls to his death, and what happens is the mall kind of the last time he goes there, the mall's
Did you just
like
spoil the fucking end of the fucking analog horror?
I did. That's why I said spoiler alert.
The whole point of us talking about analog horror on here is to get people to go watch these. Why would you spoil it?
I said spoiler alert. That's what I said, spoiler alert.
Well, yeah, but you don't want to spoil it on here in general. We want people to go watch these because they're things that we're interested in, and we want other people to enjoy them too.
And I want to say that's not the end. This is just what I've.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Like.
So I was telling my new good friend Ben that I work with. That's Devin's friend. It's Devin's best friend that he got a job at the golf course. I was telling him about like our analog horror episode and kind of like completely talked to him about the Local 58 and just how he's like this whole thing that I'm into it. And shout out to you, Ben. Ben told me today he's gonna start listening to the podcast. That's cool. And he told me this whole thing. And I explained the whole Local 58 thing to him, and he told me a really great theory that I hadn't thought of. And he was basically just saying like, what if it's like our government just testing the people, like they're civilians and shit, and like they're running experiments on them, and that's why there's this like back and forth in the Local 58 of like don't kill yourself. Kill yourself like that.
Kill yourself, but kill yourself. You should kill yourself, but don't kill yourself.
Yeah, and like, cause I came up with the theory. I was telling Ben, like, my main theories were like it's something eldritch and Lovecraftian, or it's either like another country like Russia is like trying to invade, and they're like sending us these messages of like kill yourself, and then our government's like, no, don't kill yourself. And Ben was like, really? You think it's another government? I was thinking it was our government, and I was like, oh wow, that's actually a really great theory. And he was like, yeah, so, like, since the beginning when you've been telling me, that was like my first theory that I came up with. And I just kind of, we sat there for like a whole day and talked about like the local 58 while we were working together.
Yeah, I think
I
think the
haven't
government's
finished it.
testing itself as like or population control,
Yeah.
or it could be like two universes molding together.
Oh, you have two more analog cores that you want to talk about?
Oh yeah, the Jurassic Park one.
I thought it was Godzilla.
Oh, well, yeah, that too. Yeah, there's the Jurassic Park one. There's South Park. Well, I don't really know if I want to talk about the South Park one, Nick, because I just found that today, and I haven't really watched it.
I'm not gonna lie to you. I didn't watch any of them. I was talking to. I was mostly doing research, so I knew what I was talking about with the whole backroom stuff because it had been a while since I'd watched the whole thing, and so I was just listening to a lot of stuff on the backrooms today. So I didn't actually listen to all that stuff that you had sent me, but I was gonna check it out.
Oh no, you're fine, dude. There's some good
I
shit.
just wanted to be able to kind of banter and talk about it on here, but I didn't really get the time to check it out today.
The both of them I haven't really listened to in a hot minute, but well, at least the Jurassic Park one. But that one's really,
I know
that one's like, I'm pretty sure that one's supposed to be right off of the book. Like it's supposed to be like the book was real, and it was like, but it was like a.
Oh, it was like the author wrote the book about something that happened in real life, kind of thing.
Yeah, kind of deal. And it there's they use shitty like old video game graphics to kind of show what happened, and almost like I think it's like the old video game is kind of showing you what really happened throughout the whole thing, and but it's like
Jurassic Park.
Yeah,
what really happened.
Yes, but it's so much darker than and I think I'm pretty sure.
I'll have to check that out.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure the people are like, you know how in the movie there's the Alan and the kids and everybody and it's Jeff Goldblum and all that shit.
Yeah.
Well, like it's like the kids are left by themselves. Like all the adults like left them to basically be food for dinosaurs and shit.
Oh.
And they're trying to like get back home and stuff. It's honestly really terrifying. But I was about to say Star Wars. The Godzilla one was like,
well, I don't want to spoil it. I'll let you say it. But like, I don't know. That one sounded really interesting. I was talking to Ben about that one earlier.
oh yeah,
But so Ben is actually, because I told you I was talking to him about the local 58 the other day, and Ben was going to check out the podcast because I had talked to him about all that analog stuff, and he's really into analog shit too. And I was telling him about the whole Godzilla thing and like the whole thing about the suit, and he was like, "Oh, that's really interesting. What is it called?" And like I was talking to him about it, and he looked at me. He's like, "That's what I'm going to sleep tonight, listening to."
oh yeah,
yeah,
dude. I just found it randomly one day. I was like, "Damn, that's fucking crazy." And I've recently listened to a little bit of it again. And like it's about the filming of obviously fiction, but so like the filming of the Godzilla movies and the suit, and they go to explain about how the suit almost became its own
entity,
like its own personality because people like had named it and everything. I believe it's named
like
Gojo
morphed.
Ankle Nutty.
He had like morphed to the guy that was in the suit.
Yeah. I want to say at one point like smoke comes out of the creature's mouth, and he stops reacting to everybody, and they're like, let's get him out of the suit. And they realize that like almost immediately that his whole body is morphed into the suit. Like it's like become one. Yeah, so he has like become one with the suit, almost like in Colorado Space, how all those llamas morph together to make that like that's like like that.
Right.
And I think they do like X-rays, and they show X-rays of it.
Yeah.
And it's like it is fucking. He's like forming up into the tail too. If you can imagine like the costume of it, it's like Ooh, like god damn, just creepy.
Yeah.
And also, it's not necessarily an analog horror per se, but have you ever heard of the what is it called? The Yellowstone. I think it's Yellowstone Pit, some shit like that. It's about
It sounds familiar.
it's about the it's like a park, like an amusement park, but it's a giant creature. It's like you enter the maw of this giant creature that's been asleep for thousands of years. Yeah, and there's like
I think I have heard this one.
yeah, and there's places you can't go and everything. And at one point in this story, the while people are in here, there's like a great accident or whatever. It's somebody going over like what happened, the history of the thing. It had been closed down or whatever. And this thing just
cluster or an analog horror.
it's more like an analog horror. It's kind of like the Monument Mythos and all that kind of stuff. It has
It's it's almost portrayed like a documentary kind of.
yeah, kind of yeah. And they show references of different the different megafauna that would be inside of the creature, because there's like a whole ecosystem inside the creature, and it's almost a Lovecraftian creature that is just
But
asleep
it's just
in
been around for so long.
yeah, been
What
docile.
used to it.
Yeah, and there's they talk about old stories about it as how, to show how long it's been here and how long humans have interacted with it, and this company.
Send me that one. I would
Hell
love to
yeah.
check that out.
I'll show you. I'll send you Wendigoon's thing about it. That's where I heard about it. It's really good. But at one point they talk about how it is a creature. It is its own thing, and people go missing from just stepping out of bounds a little bit, and they get absorbed into the. I was like an annihilation. How you kind of become one with the thing. It's disgusting. But anyway, at one point, this motherfucker, they paused your shit.
No, my mom just sent me some. Anyway, just dinging up on the podcast.
I don't know, but nut. But yeah, and to show the sheer magnitude of how dangerous this thing is, it sneezed basically at one point, or coughed or something. Yeah, while everyone's in there, it basically move, it just barely stirs. Basically, just sleeping in or sneezing in your sleep or whatever.
Yeah,
and that demolishes so much shit, and it just immediately destroys a bunch of shit, just a catastrophe. And
the Yellowstone.
I want to say it's if you don't mind, cut it out.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I would love to check this one out. So I want to find this one.
Wendigoon. National Park. Mystery Flesh Pit National Park.
Mystery Flesh Pit.
Yeah. So
Send me?
yeah, I'm doing it right now. Mystery Flesh Pit National Park. And they talk about it's there's wildlife safety booklets about what not to do, what to do. There's campsites that are available. It's like a state park.
So it's like a documentary. Do I need to be watching it? Is it something I could listen to while I'm working?
You can. Like I said, if you want to just listen to this, hour 16 minutes, they talk about a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
And he'll tell you where to find it, and you can look it up from there. But it's some cool shit.
I really want to check that one out now. Is that pretty much it on analog horrors, you think? The Analriff horrors?
I know I've mentioned the Monument Mythos before.
Yeah, you mentioned it on the... So, you don't really listen to the podcast, or at least you don't listen to them all the way through. And I feel bad.
I cringe so bad at myself.
I feel bad because a lot of the shit you talked about on the last one, Andrew had come in here and he was talking to us for a lot of it, and you kept talking about your whole thing, even though I was saying I was going to cut the whole thing. When Andrew came in here and was trying to talk to us, he was trying to talk to us about video games and shows and all sorts of shit, and trying to cut it up the way that he always does when he sees me. But you and me are in the middle of talking about analog horrors and shit, and you just kept going talking about yours. It was basically fuck Andrew's bullshit that he's talking about. And I cut the whole thing of Andrew talking pretty much out, And then so like it cuts and you're like in the middle of talking about your analog horror. And then I was like, so anyway, we're gonna talk about shit on Reddit. And I was like, we took a little break on the podcast. We're gonna talk about shit on Reddit now. And then like, it literally, you didn't even like get to the point of your. You talked about what was it? The Mandela catalog is what you were talking about on the last one. And like, I totally just cut a lot of your shit out. And then I felt bad because I realized that like after I cut the whole thing of Andrew talking, I was like, oh shit, Bailey's story like is only like half a story in this one. And I was like, fuck. But on Patreon, it's the whole thing, so you guys should go check out.
Yeah. Nice plug. Good plug.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
So yeah, your whole story is on Patreon if anyone wants to go listen to that.
Well, the Mandela catalog, that was really good. Of course, that one's about like demons and angels and all that kind of shit.
Yeah, and it's Rockefeller becomes the president instead of
that's the monument mythos right there. That's the one.
Oh.
Yeah, that is the one. So it's like,
that's the one where James Dean.
Yeah, James Dean is like,
he's like the devil.
Yeah, he's like the devil, some shit like
that.
Oh, and
that's the one I cut off then. I think you had started talking about the Mandela catalog, and then you started getting into the monument mythos.
I started on one, and then I ended with another, and it kind of matched up.
Well, yeah, you ended with the monument mythos, but I cut, like, you were in the middle of telling that story, and I cut out a lot of the shit where you're talking about, like, Rockefeller, and the girl comes up to him, and like he's the president, not an oil tycoon, and James D. Anyway, I cut a lot of that shit out, but it is on the Patreon if y'all want to go check it out. But we're also going to talk about it here because you were about to get into the monument mythos.
You should look that one up too. It's really cool. There's like
I was wanting to. I couldn't remember what it was called though. But monument mythos.
Yeah,
I'll check that.
I was like in this alternate universe. There's like all the monuments are like these creatures that are soldiers basically, and they're people are, there's no planes and shit, or actually matter of fact now I'm having a goddamn ADHD fit because I'm excited, but what are those things called? Zeppelins. So one part of these this thing is there's this stuff called Giza glass.
Okay.
It's basically when lightning strikes the sand around these trees or whatever, and
Sweet Home Alabama's about.
Hell yeah. And the stuff is like,
it really is. Did you know that?
Wait, really?
Have you ever seen Sweet Home Alabama? The main love, the movie. The main love interest in that movie, that's his job, is like he does that, and he goes and like gets the glass out of, like when lightning hits a beach or whatever. That's what he does, and then he sells the sculptures and shit.
Huh.
That's like a big like plot point in the movie. Huh. But it's like a romance movie, and he's like the main love.
Is that little Reese Witherspoon?
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's been a long time, baby. Yeah, it's been a long time since I've seen that movie. But I
remember the Hallmark movies.
Yeah. I just remember that's a huge plot point in the movie.
Hell yeah. Well, almost kind of like that, but no Reese Witherspoon. This stuff is so sharp, and the way it works, like if you cut your hand off, right?
Yeah.
Say you cut your hand, you can still feel it, and you can still move your hand, and your hand will like start to go. So one of these entities that uses these swords out of Giza glass. It's like like the statues you would see on top of like Capitol buildings, like the woman with the sword and shit.
Yeah,
it's those, but what they'll do if they're activated or whatever, they'll cut a motherfucker's head off, and their head will blow up. And that's what Zeppelins are. That's like how Zeppelins were created
in like this fictional.
Yeah, any Zeppelin you'd see are like these like giant head creatures that are inside of these fucking things, and they find people, and that's like that Goji whatever thing where like that giant head's floating around, and it's kind of like that, but also there's this thing where this little girl climbs on top of one of these trees, and she gets zapped into like a parallel universe between universes, and she ends up like...
This is still monument mythos, right?
Yeah. It's not this whole big crazy thing, and like...
Oh, wow.
And like, it's like somebody from this universe gets zapped into that universe, and like they switch.
And James Dean is the devil.
Yeah.
He's not an AI reconstruction that Disney made.
No. Dead as hell. He's a devil.
Yeah.
He's a devil. He's a bad little bitch. He's a rebel.
Yeah.
And that's funny
This is
because
like-
he was in Rebel Without a Cause. That's crazy.
This is the 4th episode we've talked about James Dean on.
Really?
Yeah, we bring him up quite a bit on the Riff Range. In 30 episodes, we've mentioned him 4 times.
What if it was
That's
Rebel
more than-
Without a Claus and it's James Dean, but he's fat and he's Santa Claus?
Well, Disney can do it because
Disney can-
actually we could do that because James Dean's image is public domain now.
No, but
you can
Santa
use
Claus.
AI.
He's got to be James Dean Santa Claus, but he's got to be played by Samuel Jackson.
Well, I don't know. We can get Samuel L. Jackson in there. But
Jackson will do
we can
anything. It's
CGI my face to look like James Dean.
Dude. What we should really start doing
And we
is
should-
skits. We should start doing skits. Would you like to be an actor?
Would I like
Would
to be
an actor?
We could do skits. Like we could do some TikTok skits.
I cannot wait to do some fucking Riff-anaissance.
Riff fantasy. That'll be
Are you
fun.
fucking kidding me, dude?
Are you fucking-
telling me I get to dress up as a character and play a character and be fucking weird to people? And I'm gonna hand out Blue Chews. Anybody who wants to come to the Renaissance Fair and you see us at the Renaissance Fair, ask to be interviewed. When you get interviewed, you get a $1 bill and a Blue Chew. Not sponsored.
Dude, I'm gonna get some of those deep fried Oreos. I'm gonna get the steak on a steak,
The steak on a steak?
steak on a steak.
Hell yeah.
And then I'm gonna get one of those big ass turkey legs. I'm gonna drink not mead. I had the mead last year and it wasn't great. But they have like the fucking blueberry raspberry lemonade. It's alcoholic. That was fucking good. Yeah.
Hell yeah.
And I'm gonna get drunk and talk to strangers. I'm gonna sweat my ass off because it's like in June.
Let's hope I'm not sober by then.
Let's hope you're not sober by then.
Yeah.
And I was gonna end this. I was gonna tell you about Reckless Ben. If you're pretty much, did you still want to talk about?
Oh, one more thing about that Monument Mythos thing.
Yeah, good.
There's like the the Lincoln Memorial. That's like a giant. Like there's like a big battle scene. With
Really?
fucking it's like this whole.
And this is
where,
an analog horror where
Yeah.
it's like there's like almost visuals for all this.
Yeah. They don't and I don't know if you see the battle, but like they talk about how basically the Lincoln statue was turned on and went on a fucking rampage and just destroyed destroyed a bunch of shit. It had to get
wow.
wrangled up by one of the fucking ladies with the fucking swords. And then fucking, it's a whole thing. It's really kick ass. If you want to, I listen to Wendigoon shit for most of this. I don't have the patience to go episode by episode.
Yeah.
A lot of other stuff. With the Backrooms, I did. Now that I see that there's a lot more on there, I'm gonna watch a bunch of that tonight.
Yeah.
But
And one, I mean, I really just love that one guy's story. Like, I really got caught up into it, listening to it, and like how he gets stuck in the back rooms, and the company's basically like, "We can't let you out. You're fucking dead. Like, to the rest of the world, you're dead, and we need to sell this product to our investors. Like, people are gonna go live in there, so you can't come out, basically."
yeah, it's almost like a
He's like-
double-seated project because of like how long can we get this guy to live in there?
Yeah, and it's kind of like they kind of have to wait for him to not be in there in order to sell this as a product.
Yeah.
He'll run into people, or he'll run up to people and be like, "This is fucking dangerous. You need to get the fuck out of here." And he's like this fucking crazy person in there. So they kind of like, I don't know. I think the feeling I get, or the direction that it might be going, is that the company's got to try and get rid of him, basically. And I think at a certain point he's running from the company instead of actually running from monsters, kind of thing. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I'm gonna look more into the back rooms, but it seems like it's gotten really interesting since the last time I've watched it.
And I'm pretty sure what's going on with the new thing Buddy's making is tying into it in some way.
Oh, do you?
Like I said, yeah. Like
Oh,
I
I'm
said, I
definitely
don't
gonna
think this
check-
is like,
I was gonna check that out anyway, but I'm definitely gonna check it out if it ties into the back rooms.
and this is like the little bit I was talking about. It was the first bit of what he's kind of continuing on, and I hope he continues with that story because the way the whole thing goes and like the way the creature is presented, it's like, I don't know, it's like so same to the back rooms, but it's different in its own way. Like I believe like it's almost like a different way of perceiving an entity like that.
Yeah.
That's not necessarily its own. Like
Yeah.
it's almost like the whole thing itself is an entity
Yeah.
that happens to be.
You have to have so much time and patience.
Yeah.
I like to do analog horror. That's what we should do. The Riffalog horror
The Riff
on Patreon.
Just write a whole fucking.
Yeah.
I would love to sit down and actually write a whole thing, but like, I need to get this insurance through my job so I can get Adderall Like, right, goddamn
What
thing.
the fuck?
I tell you what,
I
dude.
need to get this
Dude,
insurance through my job.
There's no way in hell I could sit down and do all that. Like, if I was having to edit every single thing that we did, dude, I would have to be geeked up nonstop. And I can't be, because if I start getting geeked up nonstop, then I'm just like, oh, well, I edited for 2 hours. Now let me vigorously beat my dick until the sun comes up.
Christ. That's your problem. That's your real problem. You need
That's
to...
my real problem. It's not drug addiction, it's porn addiction.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
Bailey's in a better place when he's doing drugs. He's like,
He's
thinking about pussy and beating his dick all the time? Or he's not thinking about dick and beating his dick all the time.
Hell yeah.
So before we close it out, I did want to talk about Reckless Ben. I was talking to my friend Ben and my mom about this earlier, and this was like, I don't know, so interesting. This was like probably almost a year ago, because I was working at 278 now that I'm thinking about it, when I was listening to all this shit. But like, I got so into this because I was listening to a podcast and they talked about this, and they were interviewing Ben. They were interviewing the guy that has the YouTube channel in the podcast I was listening to. And it got me down a whole rabbit hole of listening to this whole thing. And I don't know if this is real, because I've watched more of it since I talked to you about it way back when. And like, if you watch more of it, his the way that he like talks to people and shit is like so exaggerated. It's almost like I'm watching it, I'm like, is this a fucking skit, or did he actually go to these people's cult? Because if you look it up, it's I guess I should give more backstory to what
Reckless Ben. Yes. It just fucking hit me because he does a McCanny Manor thing where he exposes the fucking
He also he does that whole thing, and he goes to he did Scientology before he got into Scientology.
That was fucking dangerous. He
was trying to expose Scientology as like, I don't know, like
it's a gay cult.
But no, the one that the way I found him, he was talking about the Yellow Deli. So it's basically like I think the other YouTuber that does it with him is named Daniel, I think. But anyway, the other YouTuber and his girlfriend basically go into the Yellow Deli, and they're eating there. And like, he had been there before, but his girlfriend the whole time is like, this place is really weird, and like everyone's talking really weird, and everybody's smiling and saying I love you to the guests and shit like that. It's really weird shit. And then they bring you your food at the Yellow Deli. It's kind of like a sandwich shop. And they're eating, and their server just stays by the table smiling, and they're like, do you enjoy it? Like, and they're like not going anywhere or doing anything. And basically, this dude starts talking to their server, and from talking to her finds out, like, basically everyone that works here isn't paid because they're all partial owners of the Yellow Deli. Like, that's how they get around it for tax reasons. Like, no, they don't pay any of their employees because everyone is considered like a partial owner of the Yellow Deli when you work there. So, and they find out they don't pay for any of their products or anything because everything is grown and all the animals are raised on a farm.
That's cool.
And they basically find out like this is a religion called the 12 Tribes. Y'all can actually look into it. The FBI have looked into it before. Apparently, he kind of talked about that in the series.
My boy.
Yeah, and it's a cult. It's basically a cult, and that's what
shit.
Yeah. So this guy Daniel, after having this conversation with this girl and figuring out that the Yellow Deli's kind of intertwined with this whole cult, the 12 Tribes. And so he tells this guy Reckless Ben, because like his Reckless Ben's whole thing on YouTube is that he goes around exposing these different people like we had talked about. And basically Reckless Ben has like all of this like spy equipment. Like he has glasses with like cameras inside of the glasses and shit, and microphones inside the glasses, and like all sorts of crazy what was it? They have like one of them has car keys that are actually camera, is actually a camera. They both have like pens. They have like all sorts of like crazy cameras everywhere.
Those
and,
one they find his glasses after like 2 or 3 days.
Oh well, I was gonna get in. No. They're there for weeks before they find their glasses.
Oh really?
The whole thing. Yeah, I was gonna get in. That's like the very end of the story, so I was gonna kind of build up to that. But like the whole thing is like one of them has a water bottle, like not like a Stanley cup, but like a hydro flask kind of. But it's a camera, and it's like that's a whole thing. And like they have crazy cameras that he talks about as like the whole thing goes on. But so they both come back and eat at the Yellow Deli, and they're talking to the same server, the one that told them all this shit. And they're like, yeah, we're interested in joining your group. This sounds awesome. And basically she gives them the address to find the farm and everything. And the girl calls up the farm and is like, hey, these two guys, they're going to come up there and they want to join our religion and everything. And they find out very quickly that like the whole religion is like praying to Oshwa or whatever the fuck their god's name is, and that like basically anyone who doesn't join their religion is gonna burn in hell, is what they believe. And the whole thing that this is kind of building up to is apparently they're trying to collect. The reason that these guys accepted Ben and the other guy, these two YouTubers, immediately is because they said, "Oh yeah, we're both virgins." And like the whole thing about the cult is they're trying to get like 170,000 virgins and then massacre them all because they believe it'll get everybody into heaven. Like everyone that's a part of this cult will go to heaven if they massacre all these virgins, basically.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, that's like the whole premise of their religion.
Fuck.
Yeah, basically. Isn't that fucking insane? Yeah, and it's I believe they have them on camera saying that's like the whole fucking thing about their religion. And so like they're there and these guys are doing hard fucking work. Like I've had some manual labor jobs that these guys are working on the farm, like scooping manure and shit for 16 hours a day. Like it's fucking insane. Like literally they said when we weren't sleeping, we were working on the farm. And I couldn't imagine doing that and not getting paid.
Yeah, not getting paid for it. You absolutely have me. Absolutely.
The way they're paying you for it is you get to be a part of our religion and we feed you. Like everyone gets to work to make this food and we feed you and like we house you and all that.
I don't love any god that much.
But yeah, and it's fucking crazy. So then there's more to it. So a big thing I was talking to Ben and my mom about today is like, there's this girl, her parents joined the cult and then had her. So she was raised up in the cult. She's only ever known the cult her whole life. And Ben and his friend kind of like befriend her over the course of the weeks that they're staying there. And after like 1 week of being there, basically, she gets kicked out of the cult. Really? She does something because she doesn't, her whole thing is like, she was raised up in the cult, but she's like slowly, like she's in her like late teen years. She's probably like 17, 18. And she's like slowly not believing in like what the cult does. And she believes a lot of the shit that they're doing is wrong. And what you kind of find out the longer that these two guys are like kind of exposing this cult is like these people beat and molest the children that are like that are born and raised on this fucking farm. And also one of the things that he talks about is like previously what had been said was if a guy like goes and touches a little girl or something and like molests a child and diddles a kid basically, what they'll say is like all the adults that are part of the cult will say it's not his fault. It was her for tempting him. It was like hell reaching out through the child and tempting him basically. And so they'll beat the sin out of the girl basically, or something like that is like how they explain it. And that's why they beat the children basically. So basically it's the children that are getting diddled that are being beaten. Like, isn't that fucked up?
That's fucked up.
But yeah, so it's like a whole thing. Anyway, the main
Diddled's such a funny word for something so bad.
Yeah. I was trying to think of like a nice way to put it for the podcast. But the whole thing, this girl was raised up in the cult, and she ends up getting kicked out because like she goes against the cult one too many times. And I forget exactly what it is that makes her get kicked out of the cult. But like Ben and his friend are there for like a week by the time she gets kicked out. And they didn't really get a good chance to talk to her and basically find out like why she doesn't believe. But anyway, he like, cause they're recording her the whole time while they have the cameras in the glasses and everything. And they show this like screenshot that he took from all the videos that he had. And they're basically like, hey, if anybody watching these videos has seen this girl in like the local LA area, can you let us know? We're trying to reach out to her. She's never known anything outside of this cult. And she's probably going to be fucking homeless. Like, she doesn't know how to make it in the world and fucking get a job and fucking buy a house and all that shit. Yeah, like, that's awful to think. That's crazy, though, isn't it?
I'm homeless. That's from the crazy fucking cult.
Yeah, like, she doesn't know how to, but she's only ever known the acre of property, it's not an acre, but the acres of property that she lived on her entire life. And she's never been off of it except for to go work at the fucking Yellow Deli. Like,
yeah, that's fucking awful.
Yeah, and like
what we're saying here, folks, is we should abolish all religion. Every religion, no freedom of religion. Religion is gay. Religion, they're fucking kids out here religiously. Let's not do that.
Way to make a bit out of it.
Way to make a bit out of diddling.
But yeah, so this whole, and her parents are cool with it. That's the craziest part.
Yeah, that's
like
that's
Ben has it on the fucking videos or whatever, but he's like, her parents are fucking cool with it because they're like, yeah, you shouldn't go against the
fucking devout.
You shouldn't go against the cult, basically.
It was absolutely atrocious. Like one of my exes, they were raised Jehovah's Witness.
Yeah.
It was that anyway.
You're not about to compare the Jehovah's Witness to the fucking 12 tribes, are you?
Yes, I absolutely am.
Fucking insane.
Jehovah's Witnesses are fucking horrible.
Oh,
That's
awful.
fucking-
But no, not the same. What's up? I mean, like
but like
insane.
the way you can just go against what you believe and just be absolutely shunned by everybody, and everyone's just okay with it because they're like, oh well, you've been shunned. I can't deal with you, or else I'm going to get excommunicated from the church and the thing that I believe.
Yeah.
I know. I think that is absolutely horrible.
Yeah.
And somebody needs to burn down the yellow deli.
Absolutely.
Every one of them.
But I lost my train of thought.
Hashtag burn down yellow deli. Let's get that started, folks.
Yes.
Hashtag burn down yellow deli.
Meatloaf stand, in case y'all want to know. And Mom's wondering if you have any dabs you could spare in turn for a plate. I know. I said I'd ask. You walk over after things.
Yeah.
Perfect.
A trim.
I'm not giving that
so-
drugs.
Don't what?
So I'm not giving that lady drugs.
Yeah, that lady doesn't need more drugs.
Yeah.
All that's gonna get cut off. Anyway, what I was saying was there's like so much more to it. Like they're recording over these weeks and like they show all the footage of them working. Like they have hours long conversations with these people. And basically some of the fucked up shit they say is like, oh, well, Hitler wasn't wrong for what he did. He was just disciplining the Jews. Like that's
The devil was coming out of the Jews and tempting Hitler.
yeah, so
man.
he had to discipline them.
So he had to discipline them,
That's
and he had to
fucking
kill
insane.
6 million of them.
Yeah.
All the homos and all the jurors.
That's fucking insane. And then another thing they say is like, blacks are not God's chosen people. They were basically put here to work for us, is one of the things that they talk.
Which, I mean... Sorry. I just got spooked. Sorry.
What the fuck?
I got spooked, sorry. They,
Be on the drugs too much.
no, I just creepy. I don't know.
Yeah, that's drugs.
I don't know if you noticed, but my eyeline always goes to the mirror where the crack. That's why I always make sure this is shut because I see it, and then sometimes I just get a little spooked.
Yeah, that's the drugs. That's because you did too many drugs in your life. That's why I should
Scared of motherfuckers being in my closet. I came out the closet, but my demon stayed in.
I do too many drugs, so now I'm scared of things coming out of my closet. I have a great idea. Good idea. Anyway.
Everybody listen to me. Look me in the face.
Okay, anyway.
But absolutely atrocious.
Absolutely atrocious.
Things like
And,
that
like,
are allowed
they
to
say
be a
it-
thing.
So when Ben first joins the cult, basically, at the very... Can you stop fucking with that?
I'm not going to break it.
Yeah, I know. I'm asking you to stop fucking with that, though. I don't give a fuck. Anyway. So when Ben first joins the cult or whatever, basically what happens is like he has this friend who's Chinese and he has a picture of her on his phone and he goes up to them and is like, oh, this is my girlfriend, da da da. And they're like, oh, well, that's wrong. You have to break up with her immediately. You can't be with someone who's not of your race. And they believe that people of their race should always just date within their race and shit, which is crazy. And they're like, basically, there's the main leader of like the LA branch or the California branch or whatever of the 12 tribes is half Japanese, half white. And his wife is half Japanese, half white because they believe that if your parents did the wrong thing and like married someone else that wasn't a part of their race and you were born, half and half of each race, you could only marry someone who is also half and half of each race. Like you can't marry someone who's one or the other of the two things that you are. Is like one of the things that they believe in the 12 tribes.
Which
Yeah, it's super weird shit.
So like
that.
you'd have to find someone who's like, say if you were three things, you'd have to find the exact three things.
Yeah.
The exact I don't know.
I would have to find someone who's a quarter Thai.
A quarter Thai, white, and fucking Israelite.
I'm not.
And you got to be Aryan, Thai, and an Israelite.
I'm not Aryan.
It's the joke. You're God's chosen Asian.
Anyway, so the very first night that they're there, they almost get caught because they have the glasses on or whatever, and they don't know this because they haven't used the glasses at night yet. But it gets to nighttime, and one of their glasses starts beeping blue, like a blue light on the side to show you that it's working. But they had never tested the glasses at night, so they didn't know it had this blue light on it. And the guy that I was just talking about, the half Japanese, half white guy, the ringleader of the California brand,
Noticed it.
is like, he's like, what's going on right there? And he's like basically asking about it. And the guy, I forget, it's Ben's friend, is basically, he came up with an answer so fucking quick. I would have never been able to think of this. He's basically like, oh yeah, I have a lazy eye. My doctor gave me these glasses because this light is supposed to help fix my lazy eye, so you can't really tell as long as this keeps going off. And they're like, oh really? That's cool. That's crazy. Let me check it out. And they're like looking at his glasses, and they're like, oh wow, that's really cool. And then give it back to him. And it's like a whole thing. But if he didn't like think that
was some shit on the spot.
The spot like that, like
be fucking deceased.
The first night, like that's so fucking crazy. I couldn't have come up with something that fast.
No, absolutely not.
That's crazy. But
I'm like, I got these Bluetooth glasses that they're connected to my phone, so like they're
gonna be like, oh, you don't need that anymore.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
That's probably what they'll say, to be honest.
You don't need that.
Right?
And I'm like, well,
they'll be like, how does it connect to your phone? Does it
Bluetoothly?
it actually plays music in the
If you get, it's got like an internal speaker, and they're like, oh really? They're like,
no speaker in here. But God, there was more of it that I was trying to oh, the other thing, so the same guy that has like the fucking blue light glasses, he stopped wearing them after that night, and they never noticed. They never brought it back up to him. Like everyone just kind of forgot that like he had this light for a lazy eye, but he stopped wearing those same glasses after that night because he didn't want anybody else asking about the blue light again. So like he just stopped wearing them. But that's Ben's friend, basically. Ben was staying every single night with the cult, and he said it was so fucking scary. But his friend basically made up an excuse that he's like watching, his neighbors are out of town, and he has to watch he has to pet sit for his neighbors and feed them every day. So he has to go home at the end of the night and fucking make sure the pets are okay, at least for the next month, and then he'll be fully involved with the cult and everything. And that was kind of their excuse so that he could go home and charge the cameras every night, which is a pretty good excuse.
And then they just let Ben.
It's pretty crazy because like later on in the series, I'm kind of jumping ahead a little bit, but later on in the series, when they're talking about how like they left for a night or whatever at one point, and like because Ben just couldn't take it and couldn't stay in there, so he had to like get out of there, and he had to run an hour away to like an hour's run, not like an hour's drive distance or whatever. Like an hour's drive distance would probably be like 10 minutes from the fucking farm or whatever. But anyway, he had to run an hour through the woods in pitch black to get to the fucking car so that he could get out of there. And he went and had like in and out and shit. And like that's a whole fucking part, is like he just couldn't take it on the fucking like in the cold pretending to be this person for so many weeks. So he had to get out of there for a night. And then he got like reprimanded for that later. Like they not disciplined him, and like not like Hitler did the Jews, but like Hitler did the Jews. But like yeah, they were like, that was wrong. You shouldn't have done that. You need to like repent for your sins and say sorry to God and like all this shit. Which they never call God. They always name him like Ashwa or whatever the fuck the name of their god was. Yeah, so that's crazy because like not only does that happen that night, but it happens another night when he's like running through the woods, and like he has that on camera. He's like running through the woods trying to get to the car and shit. And he's scared that like someone from the cult is going to find him, like maybe be out in the woods or something. And he's like, that's such a scary like thing to think about, is like this motherfucker's running through the woods right now.
Absolutely.
But just to kind of jump ahead, I guess, they eventually do get caught because eventually they start working at the Yellow Deli. After you have to kind of prove that you're willing to put in the 16 hours a day at the farm so that they can trust you before they let you just go and start working at the Yellow Deli, because then you have access to kind of like the outside world and shit at the Yellow Deli. And they want to kind of make sure that you're kind of indoctrinated into the cult first. And so after working there for a couple weeks, they start working at the Yellow Deli. And at the farm, they've kind of gotten used to asking people questions and shit. And they're like, oh yeah, like fucking, what do you guys think about this? And they're like, they're used to questioning everything that's going on. But they don't have the same like reputation with the people at the Yellow Deli. So like they're comfortable asking these questions, but the people at the Yellow Deli don't know them like that, and they're not comfortable being asked these questions.
Yeah.
So they're like, what do you mean? Like, that's fucking weird. And basically, what ends up getting them caught is like one of them is talking to the manager at the Yellow Deli about Ben, and off camera before he didn't have his glasses on or whatever, and the manager goes like, yeah, it's fucked up that he has a Chinese girlfriend, or like or he says something like, it sucks that she's going to hell because she's Chinese or something like that. And he like quickly like turns his glasses on and tries to catch it again. And he's like, yeah, it is fucked up that like Ben has a Chinese girlfriend, isn't it? And the manager's like, I don't know what you're talking about. Like fucking, like, cause he feels like he's kind of like being prompted into saying it again. Yeah. And so this same manager basically looked them up after they had worked that weekend at the Yellow Deli and they went back to the farm. He looked them up and figured out who the fuck they were on YouTube and shit. And basically goes and tells the leader on the farm and is like, hey, this is who this motherfucker is. And the leader on the farm basically calls Ben and the other guy over. And he's like, hey, let me see your glasses. And goes and pulls out the fucking memory card in the fucking glasses. And Ben kind of explains like the whole thing. He shows the whole thing with the glasses and like where it is and all this different shit. And it's basically like, if you didn't know that these were secret spy camera glasses, you would have no idea where the fucking memory card is. Yeah, because it's like, it's, first of all, he says it's difficult to get out, and second off, it's like hidden really well. So like you would have no idea how to get it out or anything. So the fact that this motherfucker just walked over here, pulled the glasses off his face, and fucking pulled out the fucking memory card, like, you know, that was kind of the indicator that he's like, oh, this motherfucker knows who the fuck I am. And like they kind of just nicely asked him to fucking leave and like said, you can't be a part of the fucking cult anymore. And it's a whole thing. And like,
He lost all that footage?
no, they, well, yeah, actually, I think they, like, that footage that he pulled out of the memory card from, like, that day, they did lose on that, I think. But they were, like, every night that his friend was going home and charging everything, he was uploading all the footage to his computer. So, like, they only lost the footage from, like, that day, pretty much. But they did have the sound, I think, because I think he does play the sound, and then he just shows, like, clippings of, like, the people, and he's like, this is how it happened, basically.
There.
But yeah, it is.
I think I might watch that part tonight because I never made it that far into.
To where he gets caught, and I believe
he does get caught, but I don't like.
I believe their car is parked like in that spot an hour away. So after they got kicked out, they had to like fucking travel all the way out to their fucking car to get the fuck out of there, basically. And it's like a whole fucking thing. But yeah, that's such a crazy fucking story. And there's more to it because it's called the 12 Tribes. Because there's 12 locations for this cult in America. And basically Ben says at one point that he's going to go and try to get into like the other, like one of the other branches of the 12 tribes. And I didn't keep watching it after that point, so I don't really...
It does, but it doesn't really work.
Yeah, I think, because I've heard a little bit about it or whatever. I think he ends up going to another one and he's only there for like 3 days or something.
Hey, bruh. Hey, bruh, say, bruh, I know who you is, bruh. That's how they sound, and
yeah,
that's where actually Timberlands are made is
the Yellow Deli.
Yeah, they don't call it Yellow Deli for nothing. That's actually my favorite Chinese restaurant. All right, ladies.
All right, I think that's been the Riff Rant. So I really enjoyed talking about cults and anal riff horrors.
Anal OGs. That's what we say on the streets. That's what we call them.
Yeah, this was a pretty fun episode. I really enjoyed. You guys should go check out Reckless Ben if you enjoyed that little.
Go check out Reckless Ben, Kane Pixel.
Yeah,
fucking Wendigoon, fucking motherfucking yeah, all those guys.
All those guys. Yeah.
All those guys.
Go check out that.
Yes, go check us out on Patreon.
Thank you guys so much.
And we could
check us out on Instagram, Patreon. Leave us a like, a rating, all of that shit.
Comment, subscribe.
Yeah, leave us a rhetoricals. Send us a C.
We needed the money.
Cash out me at Kyle Anthony 365.
Yeah, $Snicklefritz21, baby.
Hell yeah, guys! This has been episode 30 of the Riff Ranch. We love you so much. Bye, Mom.
So much. Bye, Jade.